We should be good here. And then you want to do Civic Plus here?
Ladies and gentlemen, we'd like to call to order the regular city commission meeting for Tuesday, August 17th, 2021. Can we please have roll call?
Commissioner Rossi.
Here.
Commissioner Hugat.
Commissioner Hudak, I see you there. Can't hear you. Record show the Commissioner Hudak is here.
Commissioner Morales.
Here.
Here.
Vice Mayor Preston.
Here.
Mayor Dan.
Here. If we could please have a moment of silence and stand for our pledge of allegiance after that.
I actually don't know anything about this one. Okay. Sorry about that. Okay. All set? Thank you.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. If we could have approval of the city commission meeting minutes of the budget workshop meeting minutes of June 21st and June 22nd, 2021. As well as the, I'm sorry, go right ahead.
So moved.
Motion the second, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Acknowledgement of our city board meeting minutes, planning and zoning board meeting minutes of May 6th, 2021, June 3rd, 2021.
Motion to approve.
Motion the second, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Okay, approval of our agenda tonight for August 17th, 2021.
Mayor,
Yes, Vice Mayor.
I have an item on the agenda for tonight, number 5, under board appointments. I'd like to rescind that, please.
Okay, we'll have that removed then. The approval of the agenda with that item was again, Vice Mayor?
Number 5, under board appointees.
Got it. So item number 5 we'll have removed for approval of the agenda.
Motion to approve.
Motion and a second. The revised agenda. All in favor say aye.
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 Those opposed? Okay. Madam Clerk.
For members of the public wishing to participate in tonight's meeting, you will have a moment to speak after each item is called by the, after each item is called, the public input on the mayor. There's an opportunity for 3 minutes of speaking with an additional question. For those participating via Zoom video, please have your mouse at the bottom of the screen. Click on participants. On the right side, click raise hand, and you'll be recognized by your program name. For those participating via mobile device or landline, simply dial *9 and you will be recognized by the last 3 digits of the phone number. You may dial *6 if necessary. Thank you.
Thank you. Our first item on here is one of both joy and sadness. Sadness for all of us and joyous for him. But we have our captain, Rodney Brimwell, has served the Deerfield Beach community on behalf of the Broward Sheriff's Office since June 2017. The last 3 years as our captain. He's been with BSO for 26 years overall. So joining our city, Captain Brimlow has become an integral part of the Deerfield Beach family and is committed to establish a relationship with the community based on respect and kindness. During his time here, he and his team worked closely with the city in organizing bi-weekly food giveaways in the height of the pandemic, educated the faith community on crime trends and prevention at the Mayor's Quarterly Faith Breakfast, implemented the Operational Tactical Intelligence Center, the OTIC, the city of Deerfield Beach, a model that the country has replicated in many other jurisdictions. Captain Brimlow's contributions go well beyond that of law enforcement as a law enforcement professional. As both an executive officer and district captain, he's been a beacon for dignity, respect, and inclusiveness for this community. The city of Deerfield Beach and so many of its citizens will dearly miss Captain Brimlow, but the city is better because of him, and we are grateful for his service. Please join me in wishing the captain great health, peace, happiness through his retirement. Captain Brimlow, we cannot thank you enough for all you've given. You're an incredible individual and very proud to have worked with you and proud to have you as our chief, and will be dearly missed.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, Mr. Vice Mayor, remotely, the commissioners, and most especially city staff and the citizens in Deerfield Beach. Through 26 years has been a long time, and I've had incredible assignments throughout my career, but I could not be happier to have had Deerfield Beach as part of that, and especially as the end of my career. The commission, the city staff, and the enthusiasm of all the partners we have in the city has really provided the opportunity to do good stuff, and that's not me, but it was made possible by my staff, by the fantastic people that work with me, and also by the community leaders, whether it's Kiwanis or Rotary or some of our corporate partners. It's really been fantastic, and I'm deeply grateful for all of the transformation that I have had the pleasure of experiencing working for you guys, and you ladies as well. So I am deeply grateful. I appreciate it. Thank you so much, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. I'd like to acknowledge our County Commissioner Lamar Fisher, who's here tonight. Thank you so much. He sat down, so that means a politician not taking life. Thank you, deputies, and everybody's here to support Chief Brimlow. We really, really appreciate it as well. Madam Clerk.
Thank you. Anthony Soroka, City Attorney. Item number 2 tonight is an ordinance of the City Commission of the City of Deerfield Beach, Florida, considering the rezoning of approximately 11.95 acres located at 500 through 730 Northeast 38th Court, 501 through 731 Northeast 38th Court, 500 through 750 Northeast 39th Street, and 3851 North Dixie Highway from one family detached dwelling district and intense commercial business district to planned development district, PDD, application number 19-R-188, providing for a maximum of 155 dwelling units, providing for severability, conflicts, and an effective date. The applicant is here tonight and represented by Mr. Polyakov, and I believe you may have someone else that would like to speak on this item as well.
Good evening, Mayor and Commissioners. Keith Polyakov here on behalf of the applicant for our County Housing Authority and Housing Trust Group. We do have a small presentation to present to you and the community concerning this item. But I also know that representatives of our county commission, Nan Rich, Senator Rich, is online. She wanted to speak to this item, and she had another commitment. So if it's okay with the mayor, before I start my presentation, I'm happy to allow Senator Rich to speak if it's okay with you.
Absolutely. Senator, are you with us?
Okay.
Senator Rich, are you with us?
Yeah, I am. I'm trying to unmute right now. I don't know.
You're there. We can hear
Can you
you.
hear me?
Yes,
Can
we
you-
can. Thank you.
Okay, great. Thank you. Thank you.
Please use your name and address for the record if you could.
I'm sorry, I didn't hear what you said. Excuse
I'm
me.
sorry, name and address for the record, please.
Okay. I just want to thank you for giving me the opportunity tonight to say a few words about affordable housing. I know you're taking up an issue of a very exciting new mixed income community development. And I have to just say that affordable housing is, well, it's been a top priority for me long before I got to the commission. All the years I served in the state legislature, working on trying to ensure that the Sadowski trust fund monies were used for affordable housing and distributed fairly across our counties. Excuse me?
No, go right ahead.
Okay. So affordable housing is really the most critical issue facing Broward County. There can be no stability for families unless there is access to safe, affordable housing. And when I heard about the Talman Pines project, I said I would, love to just say a few words to support it. I think it's an extremely attractive, vibrant, as I said, mixed income community that's so needed, not only in your community in Deerfield Beach, but across the county. We did a study in, or FIU Metropolitan Center did a study in 2018, and it was a needs assessment of affordable housing. And I want to just mention that my one of your colleagues, Bernie Parnes, sits on the planning council with me, so we get to hear a lot of these cries for help and for affordable housing. So this project, as I said, is very exciting, and it is important to Deerfield. I wanted to give you just a few statistics from the 2018 needs assessment study that was done by FIU Metropolitan Center. And it shows, it had a page for each municipality, and it showed the rental deficiencies in each county, in each city, excuse me. And Deerfield in 2018, and I will tell you, when we do an update of this study, which the commission just voted to do, it will be significantly worse, unfortunately, than it was in 2018. But in 2018, Deerfield's rental deficiencies were over 4,000 units for extra low, very low, and low income affordable housing. I just want to say that, I very often hear questions about these communities. And I want to say that having been involved for so many years, that I've been to so many affordable housing developments. And I just want to say to people that you really can't distinguish them from other developments. The difference is just the type of subsidy that makes this one affordable. And I want to just explain why that's so important, because we have a growing affordability gap in Broward County. Right now, we are considered one of the most cost-burdened metropolitan centers in the United States of America. The assessment showed that 54% of households, of 760,000 households in Broward, are considered cost-burdened, meaning that they spend more than 30% of their monthly income on housing. It is estimated that there are 147,000 renter households that are cost-burdened, and about 77,000 that are severely cost-burdened, which means that they spend over 50% of their income on housing. And as you all know, rent prices are increasing faster than wages. Increased demand for rental housing results in very low vacancy rates, and there is a tremendous lack of affordable housing production. Another statistic I would mention is that in 2018, only 12.7% of families could afford to to purchase a home at the area median income, which was cost of homes, excuse me, which was $360,000. That cost right now is $494,000. And one of the things that is so important, as I mentioned, with all these renter households, that we need to look at creating more multi-unit affordable housing. And of course, this project does that. Also want to mention that Broward County is one of the lowest ranked counties in Florida for housing affordability. It is the only county in the state with less than 25 housing units for each 100 families earning 60% of the area median income. And that is in our county over 50% of the population. So I don't think, that there's a question about the need. I would like to just mention one last thing about the fact that rent outpaces many wages for many occupations in Broward County. And when people think about who needs affordable housing, I have a list here of over 20 professions, and they range from retail salespeople to preschool teachers to people who work in restaurants, bank tellers, pharmacy technicians, people who work in our hospitals today, nurses, secretaries, any kind of construction person. So we're talking about people that we see every day of our lives, and we work with them in one way or another every day of our lives. So I just wanted to, kind of make that point. I think it's really important that people realize that these are for people that live in our communities. We need places where people can live, work, and play together. And so I am just so supportive of what you all are doing. I wanted to let you know that Broward County has really stepped up to the plate. I don't know if Commissioner Fisher is still there or not, but in the budget, in the current upcoming budget, 21-22 budget, which we'll be beginning to work on next week, we have already committed to putting 50%, and now our county administrator has said 100% of the sunsetting CRA dollars will be going into the Affordable Housing Trust Fund, which was passed by the voters of Broward County in 2018 with 73% of the vote. And that will be around $8 million that will be there. In addition to that, we are planning on using American Rescue Act funding for shovel-ready projects in Broward County. And believe it or not, we're figuring between 35 and $40 million worth of projects that are shovel-ready, because the American Rescue Act money has to be used by 2026. So we've got a lot of opportunity here in our county right now, and the county just looks forward to working with you and other municipalities to help us get through this crisis together. Thank you so much for having me on tonight. I appreciate it.
Thank you, Senator Rich. We appreciate it.
Thank you, Senator. And again, for the record, and I'll start the presentation, Keith Polyakov on behalf of the joint developer entity, which again is Housing Trust Group and the Broward County Housing Authority. We do waive quasi-judicial proceeding for your city attorney's purposes, and are happy to proceed in a legislative process. With us tonight is Ann Geifert, who is the CEO of the Broward County Housing Authority. I heard the wonderful words about your police officer and how many years of service he had with the city, and has been a quasi-governmental employee now for 45 years at the Broward County Housing Authority, which is a crazy record. With her is Parnell Joyce behind her. Parnell is the Chief Operating Officer of the Housing Authority. With HTG is Delia Tabora, who's Project Manager, along with next is Ilan Matoya, who is the Senior Vice President of Housing Trust Group. Together, everyone is here to answer any questions or concerns that the commission or the residents who have attended may have. If we can advance to the slide. Sure. And again, Housing Trust Group has over 8,000 units of affordable housing throughout the state. They have 48 multifamily developments. As Senator Rick stated, it's almost impossible to determine what is a market rate development and what is an affordable development. And the reason is because the only thing that makes a development affordable is the fact that the developer has used what's called tax credit financing, which is a financing system through the state of Florida to help subsidize and pay for the development. And by doing that, the developer agrees to put a deed restriction on the property to keep it affordable for a minimum of 50 years. So that's what deems it to be affordable. In this case, the property at issue was a HUD property. So it is deed restricted for life as an affordable property. It was owned by the Housing United States Department. And as a result of that, it is an affordable property. Broward County has been around for over 50 years, and their main charge is to provide as much affordable housing to Broward County and to the community as possible. Next slide. The general location is pretty well known at this point. Hellman Pines 3 is located north of Sample Road, sort of near the hospital. It fronts Dixie Highway, and then behind it is the area which we're going to call the single family area, which is the low rise area. Next slide. History of the site, and this is probably the greatest detriment when trying to explain the development to the community, is this site used to be the site of Schooler Humphrey Villas. It was a dilapidated development owned by the U.S. Department of Housing, and it was in terrible condition. They weren't spending money on upkeep. They weren't spending money on management, and it was dilapidated housing that had to be demolished. The Housing Authority of Broward County came in, they agreed to demolish the entire property and to take it over with the agreement that it would be rebuilt for affordable housing. But what happened was it was demolished in 2006. Then came the housing crisis shortly thereafter, which meant that it had to wait, and it was on the waiting blocks waiting to be redeveloped because financially it couldn't afford to redevelop it at that time, which is why it's been vacant for so long. There's been numerous iterations of plans, and we'll get to there in a minute, for what could be on that site. And at least 5 of them, since your zoning director has been here, that he has seen concerning the plan. But no one until HTG came in agreed to do what the city was looking for and the Housing Authority agreed to put on the site. And we'll get there in a minute. Next slide. So we're here today only on the planned development district rezoning. We're not here on the site plan yet. That's going to come forward later on. We're not here on architectural design. That comes forward later on. We're just simply here on the rezoning aspects, PDD rezoning. The city commission, probably now 2 years ago, approved the PDD district with properties like this in mind, larger properties that wanted to be redeveloped in accordance with an overall theme or concept without the strict confines of the code. One of the reasons here is that you have a property with a mixed zoning category. You have residential in the rear, but commercial in the front. So that doesn't really create a overall continuity in development. Although the commercial could be built as a 75-foot hotel, there's not a direct linkage between that and the residential behind it. So it says to people, let's do a PDD to create one overall development scheme that works for the community. So the PDD ordinance came before the commission and was unanimously approved by the commission. Thereafter, this development was noticed at a public meeting, and the city commission unanimously agreed to give flex units to enable us to have the density we needed to be able to develop the development. And then the city commission unanimously heard an item that was advertised to provide a $640,000 loan towards the development of affordable housing on this site. As a direct result of the city commission's actions, the site was actually funded over $20 million by Florida Housing. Because of your generosity, it was given a better chance at the lottery. And it won the lottery, which enables it to be developed today with phase one. Next slide. The purpose and intent of the PDD district for legal purposes, it's 9.05 acre site. It's separated by several right-of-ways, so irregularly shaped. It's got 2 zoning districts that we said. And the whole goal here is to be able to use the PDD district to develop 2 phases of the development. Phase 1 is going to be the senior site, a 55 and over community along Dixie. Phase 2 is going to be the multifamily site behind it, which is all low-rise, 1-story residential housing. Next slide. So the main PDD goals for the neighborhood, when we looked at the PDD and met with the community, they wanted privacy along the north and south edges. They wanted to have minimal visibility of the parking areas. They wanted to ensure that there'd be single-family compatibility for the low-rise villas. They wanted us to maximize green space, and of course, and most importantly in the city, to maintain the Pioneer Grove design standards. Next slide. As I mentioned before, there have been at least 5 iterations of this plan in the last 5 years that have come before the city in some capacity for review. HTG was the first one who agreed to go with exactly what the city basically was looking for, which was the low-rise adjacent to the single family, the single-story adjacent to the single family with density along Dixie. Before that, there were variations of plans that had 3, 4 stories, located within the single family area that didn't work for the community. And staff rightly said, this doesn't fit our vision. We're not going to be supportive of this. Come back with a different plan. So although it took several years, probably 5 years, finally HGG came forward with a plan that the city said, this is potentially workable. Let's bring this to the commission for consideration. That's what was shown to the commission when we came forward for the flex unit allocation over a year ago, 5 years ago. Next slide. So when we came up with the original site plan design, this was the original design. You see a 8-story senior site located directly along Dixie. And then behind it was the low-rise 1-story site located adjacent to the single-family community. This has changed over time, and I'll explain why. Again, the senior site had 75 units, and the multifamily residential had 80. Next slide. So phase 1 we mentioned before, which is the senior site, has already received funding by the state. And as a result of that, we're ready to start construction of that immediately. Phase 2 was not yet funded by the state, but we're seeking an application this cycle to receive funding for it as well. The residential units will increase the city tax base, add housing opportunities, and enable people of various income levels and age groups to live in this area. Next slide. So where are we at procedurally? Although all the other things coming up to the rezoning occurred, the allocation of flex units, agreement to fund, all those prior meetings, on May 6th, the Planning and Zoning Board denied the approval and urged the applicant to go back out to the community and meet with the community to see if it could address some of the community concerns. At that point, the bulk of the community concerns were the fear of the unknown. Who is going to live in an affordable housing development? What is it going to look like? Is it going to be Schooler Humphreys too? Who is going to actually be my neighbor, in this development? It took several meetings with the community, and we were very appreciative that everyone who showed up and participated to get around that issue of who is going to live there onto the actual issues that people had, which were, let's talk about the site plan and how the site plan impacts us. At the first meeting, it was so contentious that actually a resident, what we thought was passing around a sign-in sheet, was actually sending around a petition in opposition to the development before we even had a chance to speak about the development. So as a result of the May 6th Planning and Zoning meeting, where we had 2 community meetings prior to that meeting, We had 3 additional community meetings to discuss the development. Next slide. We had meetings on June 9th, July 12th, and August 2nd. All were noticed with mailed notice, and notice was also given to special interest groups as well. The August 2nd meeting had more than a 2-week notice to go through it. As a result of the meeting, although there was still some issues concerning, who is going to live in the community, who qualifies for affordable housing, it was discussed with everyone, the background checks. It was discussed with everyone, the application requirements, the zero tolerance policy, the on-site management, the things that are done to ensure that it will never become a Spillers Humphrey 2, but that it is what it is, which is a private developer joining a public entity in a P3 development of a new property. So during that time, site plan issues were discussed, and although we're not here about that, we're going to stipulate to on the record that we are fully in agreement with the condition of the rezoning. 1, several residents were concerned that the height of the building along Dixie, the senior site, 75 units on Dixie, was too great. Even though the current zoning district, we could build today 75 feet as of right, certain residents said, if you build that height, it's too high for the area. So we went back and looked at redesigning the development and determined that we can agree and stipulate that it will not exceed 65 feet, which is 10 feet less than the permitted zoning category today. So we're stipulating on the record that we will not exceed 65 feet for that site. In addition, there's a photograph below right where you can see how we actually tiered that building, and although it's not before you now and the city staff hasn't fully examined it yet, it's going to be a step-up building which goes from approximately 44 feet, 45 feet, up to 65 feet. So the lower section is going to be within the community, and then it steps up to 65 feet. In addition to that, some of the residents were concerned with the look of the property from their residential homes. As a result, we agreed to put in a wall with lush vegetation on the south and northern ends of the property. In addition to that, on the, I believe it's the northern end, and Julia, you can correct me if I'm wrong, was that the property that was having the southern end? The southern end property actually has a legal issue that we're willing to agree to, and I just want to state it for the record now. When we went out and surveyed the property, it was determined that the single-family owners who abut the southern property line, I guess the third northern property line, they built their fences 10 feet inside of the housing authority's property. And rather than having all those residential owners have to rip out those fences and put up a new wall on our property line, the housing authority and HGG said, you know what, we'll grant anyone who wants an easement to keep their backyard, keep their fence in our property. We're not going to touch it. We're going to go on the other side of it. So if you heard anyone mentioning something about property and taking a property, it's not taking a property. We're actually granting the property because the people on that property line had actually built a fence on property that they must have either thought they owned or saw was vacant so they could extend their backyards, and they did. So the housing authority has agreed to just let bygones and build a wall adjacent to it and let everyone keep the initial backyards that they have created since 2006. Next slide. Again, this is part of the stipulation that we mentioned. We're going to put a privacy wall, a 6-foot privacy wall and vegetation along the northern and southern border. You could actually see there as well the southern border and what I was mentioning before, that our wall is going to go on the other side of the backyards and the fences that already exist. Next slide. So again, we always look at additional design standards for the Pioneer Grove. We made sure it had podium parking with high quality architectural screening. We did the bioswales and pocket parks. We did that lighting and dark metal trim. So we did everything in our power to make sure that we met the vision of this district. But again, we're not here on design or site plan. We're solely here on whether or not this site is conducive for a planned development district basically taking the two zoning categories, combining it to a planned development district. Next slide. This is just a visual representation that we want to show what exists today. And clearly, when the wall goes up, and the vegetation goes up, and the sidewalks are improved, this entire area is going to look different. Next slide. This is an important slide to see what Senator Rich was speaking about the income levels to be able to live in an affordable development. It shows the rents as they existed in 2021, and it also shows income levels that would be attractive to someone who earned this amount: entry-level teacher, law enforcement, medical and service industry salary, all qualified to live in this district. Next slide. This is important to mention as well. During some of the community meetings, some of the communities said, well, why can't the single family area be restricted to seniors as well? This is the best indicator why. We are less than a quarter mile away from the Broward Health System's hospital. They currently have over 900 jobs available for residents in Deerfield and otherwise to work within the Broward Health System. When you look at these jobs and you look at some of the average gross salaries that are being offered for these jobs, which are on the right, all of them qualify to live in the affordable housing community. So as a result of that, we've agreed with Broward Health to actually do a housing fair with the hospital to be able to promote the fact that when that phase 2 gets developed, that it will be available and that we will market it first to Broward Health and try to attract new employees to Broward Health to be able to live within this community. Next slide. This is a visual of what the single story multifamily section is going to look like. We have a couple of slides like this. Again, this comes back before you. It comes back for site plan, architectural design. Not why we're here tonight, but we understand that some of the residents want to know what it was going to look like, so we created these visuals for them. Next slide. This again is a interior photograph, and you can see where it's taken from within the top right, and it shows the single family community, which is adjacent to the other single family community. Next slide. This is a picture that shows a portion of the tot lot and clubhouse and dog park that we zoom into in a minute. Next slide. That's a good picture of the dog park that's fenced in when you can see the tot lot across from it. Important to note, this community does have a complete clubhouse. It does have a fitness center. It does have a computer room. It does have activities for residents to learn job training and health skills and life skills, and that is all part of living within a community like this. Next slide. This is a photograph that we showed previously that shows the vantage point of what the wall would look like. Again, it's something that we're agreeing to. It wasn't in the original plan, but after our 3 meetings with the community following P&D, we agreed to lower the height, go under the zoning district height, and to put in the wall that was requested. Next slide. Here's a photograph showing the single story section looking at the 45-foot podium of the 55 and over senior facility. Next slide. And this is 2 photos that juxtapose the single family area adjacent to the senior site that will be developed first on the property. Again, and in conclusion, you know, we totally respect and understand the fears of some of the residents in the community. If any of us were to live adjacent to the School of Humphreys, we would similarly never want to repeat of what transpired there before. But this is totally different. This is not a Section 8 housing development. This is an affordable housing community which looks and feels exactly like a market rate housing community. Everyone has to be vetted. There's full background checks on every applicant, criminal background checks, there's financial background checks. And every year they're audited to make sure that everyone's in compliance. When you have a development that's funded by the state, federal government, it's audited annually. So it needs to look and feel the way that it was first developed 50 years later to be subject to recapture. We appreciate your time in considering this. We appreciate the community's efforts in coming out and trying to reach compromise on some of the issues. And we're happy to answer any questions and address any more concerns raised by them. Thank you for your time.
Thank you very much. Commissioner Hudak?
Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor. I really, really appreciate this presentation. This is a project that I have been working on for this area for over 2 years. This is the best iteration of this project that I have seen. I have also worked with the community to explain to them the difference between what was here and what had to be demolished in 2006 and what this new vision is. This is the future of Deerfield Beach. This project is something I'm extremely passionate about and very excited about, and I fully support this. And again, I want to thank Senator Rich for coming on and supporting this project as well. This is a game changer for the city of Deerfield Beach and District 1. And I do ask you all for your support on this. Thank you.
Thank you. Vice Mayor, you had your hand raised?
Yes, I did. I think it was talked about briefly, but my question is, will there be measures of security implemented to ensure protection to the existing community? Because the question would be, what kind of people are we bringing into the community and the proposed project community as well?
Thank you, Vice Mayor. You want to answer for you?
Sure, Mayor. To answer the question, there's two answers to that. One, there is on-site management at the development. Clearly, there's a leasing office for both the senior side as well as the multifamily. So there are people there during all business hours to ensure that the site is being managed. It's a managed community. As far as security, there are cameras surrounding the entire community. There's access doors and the like to the homes. And we've agreed to put up the walls to buffer this development from the surrounding community. In addition to that, unlike the surrounding community, there is extensive background checks for every applicant that has a unit there. And as a result, it is not like School or Humphreys where you can use a Section 8 housing voucher and just come in and say, here's my payment, here's my, give me my keys. In this case, there's actually a full process that every applicant has to go through and get approved and scored in order to move into development. So it's actually safer than that of nearby communities or other rental developments that don't have this severe requirement.
Thank you.
May I respond again, Mr. Mayor?
Commissioner Hudak, go right ahead.
Thank you very much. I want to thank Vice Mayor for bringing that up. I want to reiterate the point that this is not Section 8 housing. When you say the type of people that are going to move in there, these are working people. These are people that can't afford a $460,000 home. These are people that are making $20 an hour or $30 an hour. They're working, their salaries are verified. Their criminal history is verified. This is not Section 8 housing. This is housing for people who are just starting out, for young couples. This is what this community needs. Those types of individuals cannot afford homes in Deerfield Beach or any of the surrounding areas. This type of a property gives hardworking people who are just starting off in their careers or have careers that pay $40,000 and $50,000 a year an opportunity to live in a great home in Deerfield Beach. That's what this community is. So I want to make sure that individuals understand this isn't a Section 8 housing. This isn't something that was demolished in 2006. This is a community of viable individuals who will be working at the hospital, that'll be working at our restaurants, and who'll be working at our retail outlets. That's what this community provides for the city of Deerfield Beach.
Thank you, Commissioner. Not seeing anybody else on the commission to speak. Is there anyone from the public who care to speak on this item? Just come on up. Just need your name and address for the record, please.
Career Yard. What else do you need?
Your address.
5711 Northeast 38th Street.
Yes, ma'am, go right ahead.
I have a question. Affordable housing, will they be owning the houses?
I'm gonna answer for you.
Will they be owning their homes?
We're gonna need an answer for you.
Oh.
Yeah.
Now, or because I have something else. to
Yeah,
say.
go right ahead, keep going.
And I just wanted to let everybody know, I just think this is a horrible idea. If anybody has land in Deerfield, choose there, not where we are. My mom has a master's degree. She was a teacher for 30 years. I have a bachelor's degree. I'm an LPN as well. We have respectable people on our street who actually own their homes. So the reason that I asked for the affordable housing, people own their homes, because if they don't, that means they'll never be in a meeting like this. Because people on our street, we're in this meeting. That street of this slideshow that didn't budge me at all. Will they be in meetings like this? Because the people on our street, we're here. I'm saying no to this. My mom purchased her home in 1995. So I was at the first School of Comforts phase, not trying to go in that community and walking only on my street because it was chaos. You can't distinguish affordable housing, low income from a mile away. The people there, the people that hang out there, it's not necessarily the people who you're doing background checks to and who are passing, everything to get in. It's their cousins, it's their friends, it's their baby daddies. Oh, it's a whole mess. And I'm sure everybody knows that because I don't think any of us purchased the house over there, or we try to stay away from places like that. I mean, we couldn't wait until 2006 to got everybody out of there. And I'm sure we all heard of the showdown in Taubman Pines, where somebody just died. So thanks to whoever is having this bright idea, crime rate went up when you guys put Taubman Pines over there. So we don't drive over there anymore because it's a bunch of drug dealers and it's a bunch of kids in the street and it's people braiding hair outside and it's just a whole lot of chaos. So God forbid we go that way. So now we're just like going out Dixie again because now they walking through to get to the store. So it's a whole nightmare. It's just like y'all, like just spraying us with a disease that we don't need. There's nowhere else in Deerfield to do this. It's no other land where anybody else, where you guys live.
Would you like another minute?
Please.
Yeah.
There's no other land that anybody else can think of because this is not a good idea at all. I'm speaking for my home, my mom's home that I'm purchasing from her because she has another home. People able to not afford housing. My mom has 2 homes. She was a teacher. So, I don't know why City of Deerfield wants to save the world and save the community. Not next to us, do it elsewhere. Because although LPNs and people who work at the hospitals and waitresses and, I respect everybody, but what about people who actually went to school and went to college and have a degree and, did all the American dream things? Now just like parade us with the people who trying and go to the hospital and have this whole event. Anybody can buy a $400,000 house or whatever number you threw out there. They're going to Lighthouse Point or out west. They're not coming off Dixie.
Appreciate it.
It's ridiculous.
Thank you. We get that question answered whether we own the property.
You would like us to address?
Yes.
Happy to, Mayor. Mayor, to answer the question, it is a rental community, as I mentioned in our presentation. It is deed restricted by HUD as an affordable community, so it is a rental community. The rents are set by the state of Florida based on your area median income level. Again, it's 2 phases of the site. The first is a senior site, 55 and over. That's going to be developed first. We would strongly object to a reference that there are drug dealers hanging outside of the site. That's not what this is. This is a site that is income restricted based on people who have service sector jobs, new teachers, new police officers, new firefighters, people who are just starting out. They absolutely have college diplomas, a lot of them. It has nothing to do with educational background. It has to do with income and them coming aboard for new jobs. In regards to the senior community, most of those residents are on fixed income and Social Security. It doesn't mean that they're drug dealers. It doesn't mean that they have bad background. It just means that they are retired from work and live on Social Security, which a lot of Americans do today. So hopefully that addresses the question.
Thank you very much. Anyone else from the public, please? And Mr. Pollock, I'm going to have you come up and answer each question that people have after they speak, because it will help the next speaker as more information comes forward. So that will help.
Good evening. My name is Janaris Carter Grant, 590 Northeast 38th Street. I've been living at my home for 12 years. I purchased that home on the assumption that the property they're talking about was going to be single family homes. I love my community. I am not knocking affordable housing for this project that you're doing, but I am opposing for that area. And the reason why we need homes here, single family homes. And I know the presenter said earlier, no one can afford this, but I know for a fact the city itself has money to help people to afford homes. Okay, we can have the prices go down and we can have monies that we can pull. I got a down payment of $8,000 for an Obama plan, so I know money is available, but that's not the issue. I had some of the teenager girls, black young girls walking in my community. As I was outside of my house, they say, Miss, we love your house. You know what that made me feel? Good, because I tell them you can have opportunity to own as like I own. And that's what we want. We want them to mentally know that they can own a home, not rent all the time. Own it, not rent, that somebody can get an investment and somebody can get money from what they're doing. We got to think about the young people, future young people that want to own. And like the young lady said earlier, the traffic, if you can go down Dixie Highway around about 4 or 5 o'clock, you can't get through. You're on 38th Court, you got to turn around and go in the community to go down 3rd Avenue. If you turn around and go down Dixie, you got to wait. Could you imagine a senior citizen? I just retired from the Broward County Sheriff's Office. Okay? So I have my own home with my own garage. But could you imagine a senior coming out from their garage? A 72-year-old lady driving? She got to try to get on the traffic to try to get on Dixie Highway? Could you imagine late at night for her coming home? When you got Thomas Pines over here looking at them senior citizens waiting to jump them in their own garage, or in their own car, trying to get out because of the traffic. So it's a lot to look for. And like I said before, I know you all gonna do what y'all wanna do, but y'all gotta look at us and what we want. And think about the people, and think about the young people. And let them have a mind frame to know that they can own. And we do have the money is available to keep it single family homes and just help them with the money to afford it. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else from the public?
I don't know if you want to.
Oh, yes, please. I'm
Yeah.
sorry.
Mayor, just to address the questions asked real quickly. In terms of the senior center, most of the seniors who are in these senior communities had already owned homes, that they're in a different stage of life now, and that's why they want to rent and are living on fixed income, and that's why they want to live within the development such as this. In terms of getting rich on rent, this is a special district in the state of Florida, which is Broward County Housing Authority. It's a not-for-profit entity. It is quasi-governmental entity. They're not getting rich on the rent. That's not their charge. Their charge is to provide affordable housing to the community. And as far as home ownership is concerned, both HTG and the Broward County Housing Authority all support first-time buyer program. I'll try to do everything in my power to ensure that residents are getting the life skills and the training that they need to eventually move into their new home. So it's really unfair to characterize all the individuals here as not being able to get a home. A lot of them have moved and transitioned life to a different circumstance, and as such, they are not looking to buy one. And as far as the single family, we've discussed this with the community numerous times, deed restricted through HUD for affordable, and the Housing Authority has a charge to maximize the development of the site, which is why it's always been geared to multifamily. Finally, I was thrilled to hear that both this speaker and the prior one had been there during the Score Humphrey days, because they moved into the community knowing that it was an affordable site. It wasn't a surprise to anyone. Thank you.
Yes, ma'am, just your name and address, please.
My name is Elizabeth Mitchell. I live at 570 Northeast 38th Street. I first became aware of this project in May at a zone meeting. I had no prior knowledge of this type of project, and I understand that it has been going on for 2+ years. I have since attended 3 meetings with the developers. The first meeting was, in my opinion, contentious and did not accomplish anything. Both sides were unyielding, and I was told that if I didn't like it, I could move. The second meeting focused on convincing the residents that affordable housing increased property value as and could be, there was many research done that would support that fact. We were also assured that the developer would explore making changes to plans after completing, excuse me, after completing rejecting our plans on single-family homes or a senior citizen-only community of single-level residences or second-story residences. Well, I decided to read research articles dealing with the impact affordable housing has on property values and neighborhoods. And as one would expect, arguments were made on both sides. However, the overwhelming consensus was that affordable housing revitalized and increased value significantly in neighborhoods with abandoned and or dilapidated buildings or houses, vacant and unmaintained land. Research does show that affordable housing does negatively impact the neighborhood and property value when there is a larger, more concentrated development than a small project. And smaller projects were typically defined as less than 50 units. This project is designed to have over 100 units. In fact, there was substantial reductions in property values when the housing was clustered. Additionally, the design of the development was significant, as the research showed that positive impact existed when the development was attractive and blended with the surrounding neighborhood. Overall, smaller and dispersed. I need the other minute. Yes. Overall, smaller and dispersed housing projects were most likely to generate positive property value impacts to the greater neighborhood. Our neighborhood is not abandoned. It is not dilapidated or impoverished. HUD owns some vacant land, but it does not own the neighborhood.
Thank you.
Mayor, I'll be super quick.
I don't think I'm gonna hold you off till the end because I don't think there's a specific question.
Yeah, but I was just
gonna
gonna
she said, man, but if there's a specific question, I would like you to be your answer. That's all right.
Larry Allen Westfall, 601 Northeast 38th Street. One of my things is to back up what someone else said about the traffic. It's right now, it's at the maximum where people can get in and out of that place and anywhere on Dixie to the south, if you want to go along the Sample Road to the west or the east, it's just impossible to get across the railroad tracks. If you finally get up, if you're not cut off, not cut off by the light and the arrow comes up, then either a bright line train comes through or one of the mile long freight trains and there again, just can't. I don't think anybody can realize when you add 155 more families in that same spot, 155 more families when the roads are full of cars, it just gets completely unusable. It's going to be nothing but a backlog. And contrary to what the developer said, you guys are going to do the voting. It's not us to live in the community. You know, I say you can't fight City Hall, but City Hall is supposed to be fighting for the people in the community.
Right.
And all I've got to say about it is, I had said it in a letter once before, up on north of 40th Street, there's this big high-rise development there for low-income people. And over on a little bit to the southwest, it's on Fourth there's another bunch of apartments like that. You put this in between, and you are creating a ghetto in the future, regardless of what anything anybody says about studies or anything. You can't add 155 in here and you can't deal with the traffic. And in the future, not right away, but within 10 years, you're going to have a ghetto. And there's just no way out of it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hello, my name is Lakeisha Sweeting Scott. I live at 581 Northeast 38th Street. We've met with these developers probably 3 or 4 times. The problem is they're letting the people that do not live there make decisions. When I walk out my front door, I am 0.7 miles from North Broward. I can look at the top 4 floors. Now you want me to go and look out my back window and see a 9-story high-rise. I'm not for that. We asked these developers if it has to be affordable housing, make it affordable for sale housing. Because anyone that owns something is going to take better care of it than the person that rents it. They told us no. We asked them to make it all for seniors or the high rise. We won't fight as hard because we're more comfortable with that. They told us no. We're trying to come up with a compromise. They're not offering anything, but they're going to take down 2 stores and go to 65. We've asked, where else in an established community do you have 2 affordable housing projects side by side? A couple blocks over, you have a third, Palmer Pine. I still have not gotten the answer. All I get was all over the place. I'm not for this. We pay our taxes. This is what we were promised with single family. We pay your salaries. We vote you all into office. You all are supposed to be doing what is best for the people, for the residents, for your constituents. Following along with this is just totally, it's awful. Property values are going to drop. I was there before the Humphreys Villas was taken down. It was awful. The police basically lived in that area. Now you want us with that bad taste to relive it again because you want to put in another affordable housing project. Don't get me wrong, I have nothing against affordable housing, but I don't want it in my backyard. I built a home based on the fact that I can look outside and see other single family homes. If I wanted to see high rises, I'd bought a condo. I pay good money and I pay good taxes every year. You see, I work for Costco. Okay, so I'm not making $100,000 a year, but I work hard. I've been on my job 21 years to have my single family home and wanted in my single family home community. not a high rise.
Thank you. Is there anyone else from the public here to speak? Anyone online? Is anyone written in? Pardon? No. Or do you want to speak? Yes, sir. Okay.
Good night. My name is Omar Wellington, 561 30th Street. And I have to agree with, I have a lot to say, but I have to agree with the team. I've been at my house, about my house for 13 years. It's peaceful, quiet, with good neighbors. Sometimes I will get wrong mail. My neighbors will get wrong mail, we bring it, swap it, and we want to keep it like that. So I would say no for the high rise.
Okay. Thank you. Anyone else from the public? Yes, ma'am, come on.
Good evening, my name is Jessica Kinsey, and I am a 501.
I'm so sorry. Can you say it one more time?
Jessica Kinsey, 501 Northeast 38th Street. And I have a question for the builder in reference to background checks. When you're doing your background check for the people who are moving in, are you also doing background check for their children? I'm a teacher for Broward County School Board, and I've been teaching for over 20 years, and I work at a middle school. And I have many of the students that I work with, unfortunately, have been in trouble with the law. So these children, of course, have parents. So when they move in, yes, you do the background check on the parents. How about the children? Young adults.
I'll find out for you. Thank you. Is there anyone else from the public here to speak? We gotta close it to the public then. City Attorney, you have your light on? Or is that Commissioner Drossy?
That's me.
Or, sorry, you'd like to speak? Yes.
I'm sitting here, sir.
Commissioner Parnas, thank you. That would be Commissioner Drossy's also. Yes.
I started out as a young man, as a civil rights worker. How many of you out here lived in an apartment before you owned a home? Raise your hand. Oh, my goodness. You mean, imagine you're not allowed to. Not in my neighborhood. Move somewhere else. We own our homes. Most of you in this room lived in an apartment before you could afford a home. What you're saying is, those people don't count. I don't want them in my neighborhood. Let me finish. This is not back and forth. I'm embarrassed. Because to me, this is bigotry against poor people, starting out people, people who are looking to build a career. And they have to live somewhere in a decent neighborhood. You have a decent neighborhood according to you. So where would you like them to move? What part of town would you like them to move where there's affordable land, where HUD has come in and is helping with the financing?
Lighthouse Point.
But, oh, Lighthouse Point?
Excuse me, do not interrupt.
Please.
No one interrupted you. Let him speak his mind.
Why not Texas? I mean, why, that's far enough away from your neighborhood. This is wrong. People starting out, young people in their first job, and most of you in here, raise your hand when I ask who lived in an apartment. You have to start somewhere. And affordable housing, unfortunately, in the private sector, pretty much doesn't exist. Why? Because if I build a house for $3 million, an apartment, and I'm getting X amount of rent, but if I spend another $500,000, I can make extra $500,000 profit every year. So why would I build affordable housing when I can build a little better and get a lot more money? So HUD is coming in and building affordable housing because people who work for a living, whether they be a waiter or work in a dry cleaners or work in a hospital, have a right to a decent place to live with affordable rent. So they don't have to spend every dollar to a high rent area where they can grow their families, grow their careers. I'm embarrassed, but not in my neighborhood, not in my neighborhood. Unfortunately, I had the same thing with residents that all own in Century Village when they built luxury homes on part of the golf course that was part of Century Village. These homes are now going for $475,000 each. The people still complain. It'll take the neighborhood down. They'll have dogs, they'll have children. And we're a senior community. We can't afford to have kids near us. Why not? I'm embarrassed that people say, not in my neighborhood. Dude, move it down the road. I'm sorry, that's wrong. In my opinion, it's wrong. I'm going to support this project because I think it builds people up. It gives them a chance to grow. It gives them a decent place to live. Period. Near a hospital, not far from the industrial park, where they can get jobs. Where people, the hospital has over 900 jobs to be filled. If they're living in Lighthouse Point or downtown Fort Lauderdale, how will they get to work? Oh, that's not my problem. That land is designed by the federal government to be low-income housing, affordable housing with a cap on what you can earn. That's the federal government. So it's not going to be private homes because HUD is involved. It never will be private homes. Get that through your head, that the federal government has said, this is what it's going to be. And from what I saw from the designs today, and the dog park, and the playground, and the under the apartment house parking. Another point, when it comes to this county, land use changes goes through the planning council and the county board, county commission. Lamar Fisher was here. He's one of our county commissioners. Nan Rich spoke. She is a county commissioner. One of the things we look at is traffic study. Can the schools handle children? Is there water? Is there sewage? Is there public transportation nearby? All of these things are looked at. They're not ramming it down your throat. This is a consensus of experts who have looked at this project and the feasibility of it, and HUD has decided, yes, this looks good. I know you had a slum landlord before, and I know it had to get torn down. But by the same token that you all own homes, the bean farmers that were here in 1900, 1915, could have said, nobody's building anything, my beans are forever. You wouldn't be living in Deerfield if that was their attitude, but it wasn't. So many of you have homes. I own a home. It's a condo, actually, in a senior community. The only thing I ask of our board when they interview a prospective buyer or renter, as in this case, is a background check. And they go through a background check. And if they pass the background check and they fit into the income bracket that's necessary, we let them buy the condo or rent if it's a rentable building. Please understand, that land is for low-income housing, not private homes. That's HUD made that decision. And that's what it's going to be. So yes, I support it. And incidentally, yes, I did take a contribution to my campaign from the lawyers, not the builder, the lawyers. Becker and Polyphone, one of your attorneys.
Thank you, Commissioner Barnes. Commissioner Drosky.
Thank you, Mayor. I want to first tell the residents that are here that I'm not embarrassed that you're here. Nobody's going to advocate on your behalf except you. So, right. And I used to sit where you sat, a private resident, before being elected. And I just want you to understand a little bit to the process, because to someone who doesn't come to all the meetings, it may get a little convoluted. But what we're being asked to do tonight is to rezone the property. And I hear all of your concerns, the traffic and the property values. That really doesn't apply tonight. It really doesn't come in. Stay involved in this process, because we're going to do a site plan, which comes next. And devil is in the details when it comes to the site plan. And that's where we need you to come back and reiterate your concerns and tell us what you feel about it. Because we're just being asked to rezone the property tonight from two different zoning designations to one. We're not approving what it looks like, how high it is, traffic. None of that is being approved tonight. That all gets argued again. So I encourage you to stay involved, come back, and let us know your concerns later. But that's not what's being approved tonight. So don't take whatever happens tonight and what's going to happen at the very end, because that debate will come in another day. But what is going to happen tonight is I want more information from the public. So at the next meeting, I am prepared. Ms. Mitchell, I met you previously, one of the community meetings that I attended. So you indicated you have some research about property values for low-income housing. I'd like to see that. So if you could provide that to me and I could read it in advance of the next meeting, I'd like to see that as well. Mr. Westfall, I believe it is, you mentioned, I believe in your comments that you had written a letter. I don't know who the letter was to or what it said, but I'd like to see your letter as well. I'd like to see it again. I'll leave my, as soon as this is over, I'll leave a couple of my business cards on the side. You all can just email me to what you have. If I have it already, I apologize, but I'll get it again. And just as an aside, Ms. Kinsey, if you've been teaching for 20 years, you must have started when you were 10, because you don't look like you've been in the school system for 20 years. So that's a compliment to you. So I'm hearing all the concerns. Tonight's not for me to make that decision. So please stay involved in the process going forward. That's my comments.
Thank you, Commissioner Vice Mayor.
Thank you, Mayor. I just want to say that all of the residents that took the time to come out tonight and to say the things that they've said is important. And their concern, from what I was hearing, is that you have single family homes and now you're going to integrate into that environment rentals. And their concern was a deterioration of the community from single family. And that's a legitimate concern. They have every right to feel that. That is actually a legitimate concern. And a lot of the people have taken the time to put in a lot of work in their homes, and they don't want to see the structural integrity that structurally or socially deteriorated. That's a legitimate concern. But I would say to them that if you were listening carefully, there were some safeguards built into it with that thought in mind. Those background checks of, the concerns of drug people coming into that environment, that's taken into consideration. That kind of person is not going to get in there. Child molestation, those kinds of things that wherein if you had a certain level of income may invite, some very challenging personalities to come in there and change the fabric of that neighborhood. Well, you know what? They are looking at that, and I applaud them for that. And the income, you just can't just move in there. You have to have a certain income to be able to move in there. Is that the cure-all? It is not. But at least you can see that this is not a development by a private person who came in, bought some land, and he's looking to just build a bunch of rentals, because I really do believe it would become, you know, a slumlord type of thing. But you can see that that's not the case. And for the people who have put in the time to build their neighborhood, you have to be applauded for that. And I do share your concern of just rental property. The stability of a community is created through single family homes. That's for sure. And if this were single family homes, it would actually be better. But you know what you have to take into consideration also? It could have been a project that even if it was single family homes, it could be really low income, which you're building single family homes, but you still could have created the very same environment that you're looking to avoid. There were a lot of challenges with the presentation and the information that was presented. Now, I can't see a lot of you because I'm on Zoom, and so there, you know, I can't distinguish real well, you know, what your response will be. But I want to know, by a show of hands, how many of you requested a meeting with your commissioner? Anybody?
No, Vice Mayor.
Okay, let me just say to the community, when you have concerns, things that really affected you, to be able to get up out of what you were doing, to disturb your normal rhythm, to go to a city commission meeting, I share my colleague, Commissioner Drosky's point that that's admirable. But also, this community should have requested a meeting with Commissioner Hudak. Sit down, talk with him, challenge him. Here's our concerns. Just like he said earlier, that he likes a lot of the aspects of this particular project, he could have also tonight brought to the table, here's what my community is saying, because I've been in close contact with him. And I hope you understand how disjointed this is when there is a lack of communication. And so a lot of your concerns could have been mediated by having great communication with your commissioner, who could have brought your concerns to the commission tonight. But I want to just say again that I agree with you, the residents that live in that area, no doubt about it. If there were single family homes, the structure, the stability of that community would have been better, without a doubt. That's how it's done. Nobody wants to see a bunch of rental units come in and change everything and challenge that community in ways that it was not challenged. But I'm going to tell you, if this land was available to private developers, they could have come in and bought it and created really low single family homes and brought in the same thing. So I would suggest to you all that if you have concerns going forward, it would be right for you, this community, to request a meeting with Commissioner Hudak. Sit down with him, talk with him, tell him your concerns. Let him address those concerns, and ultimately let him be your voice on this commission. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. Commissioner Hudak, I see you have your hand raised before I get to you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor. I really appreciate it. First of all,
go right ahead.
Thank you. Can you hear me?
Yeah, unfortunately, okay. Can't hear you. We'll go ahead and we'll let you go.
All right, I appreciate it. First of all, I want to thank the comments of Commissioner Drosky and Vice Mayor Preston and the support for Commissioner Parnas. I was at the last two meetings with the community and the developer in this, and I did hear a lot of the concerns and the challenges. First of all, I do want to commend the community for coming out. This is your forum. to, let us know how you feel. As is those meetings that I attended, and I believe Commissioner Drosky was at one of them as well, maybe even two of them. Again, I am your voice. It is my job. You elected me to represent you, but not just you, the entire community, and to do what's best for the entire community. This has been vacant land since 2006. And as Commissioner Parnas alluded to, it is not privately owned land. This is federally owned land that has been designated to be low income. And so what I am trying to do is trying to find the best solution for vacant property that has been there for over 17 years now. I'm trying to find a solution that is not going to mirror what happened before 2006. This, again, has been vacant property for over 17 years. And as opposed to keeping it vacant property, we're looking to try to find the development to help the community as well. And so that's what we're trying to do here. I'm listening to the community. I've listened to your challenges and concerns. And as Commissioner Drosky said, this is just the beginning of the process. And this is just changing the zoning codes. This has nothing to do with the design of the facilities or of the senior facility either. This is just to change the zoning codes. So I'm asking you to please stay engaged because it's a long process. This process is a long way from being done. And I want to work together with the community as well as the developer because this land is going to be developed. And we want to make sure that it is developed in a way that not only maintains the community, but enhances the community. As Vice Mayor said, yes, if they were owned homes, it's the ideal situation, but it's not privately owned land. So that option is not available to us. So we have to look at what the best option is available for that community and that property. Right now, we have the opportunity to take advantage of a $20 million grant in order to start developing this area. And that's what I'm trying to do. And as said, there is nothing stopping HUD from coming in and just putting Section 8 housing there. They can do that too. They can do whatever it is that they feel that they want to do with their land. So I know it's not the ideal situation, but this is the best way that I can see to protect this neighborhood from a development that would not enhance it. I thank you very much for your time.
Thank you, Commissioner. Obviously this is a huge challenge and there's some great points were brought up. And if you have affordable housing's positioned in a certain area, and this looks like it's almost like a triangle they have with affordable housing, what are you doing to that area? That this property is zoned that can't be changed. Anything that we're doing here tonight, the way that property is set up with the federal government, you can't change that. So while I understand those concerns, and I do thank you all for your years. Commissioner Drosky's point is right on. This is a long process. This is the first step in a long process. Your voice is going to be needed at other points to have to say what's going on. You might be discouraged tonight by some of the things you hear, but the truth of the matter is your voice is going to be needed because if you want to have a say what happens in the future here, you need to stay involved for sure. People talked about, well, I bought my house 20 years ago, maybe longer. I was able to buy it. Why can't they do it? Truth of the matter is, I've been looking at the Broward County Property Appraisers site as we've all been talking, looking at the homes that are right up against there. You have a home in 2011 sold for $120,000. That's affordable. Certainly, you can get it. That was only 2011. Right now, it's up for sale for $315,000. You have a house that sold in December of 2016 for $188,000, affordable, is now selling it for sale right now for $435,000. That's not affordable. Single-family homes are not a safeguard for what could possibly go in there and give you the same problems you had previously. What you're seeing in the prices in those times when you were able to buy it for $100,000 and where you're at now, to what you see prices are going for. A lot has changed, but one thing that hasn't changed, I think the federal minimum wage has only gone up maybe once that time. It's nowhere near where it needs to be to allow people to afford those types of homes that you're currently living. They didn't jump on the bandwagon of Deerfield Beach back when you did, just like I did. Our homes were affordable. It's not that case anymore. So I have a great deal of empathy for people that are trying to come in. And yes, we do have a first-time home buyer program, but it doesn't even put a drop in the bucket for what people really need when you're talking about prices that we're talking about. So there is a need, without a doubt, there is a need to try to overcome that wall that we have of the affordability gap. The thing that sells me on this, that makes me, because I understand the fear. For those of you who lived through what was there before, I completely get it. I completely understand. And I don't want to create that in our city. I don't want to redo. I don't want anything like that. The safeguards that are in place for this, I think, are important. And it's a world of difference compared to what you had before to what the opportunity is now. And when you look at the situation with trying to protect and save our neighborhoods, first off, if you've had that abandoned for all these years, going from nothing to something, that even if it's single family homes, yes, it's going to have an impact on traffic. It's going to have an impact on a lot of things. It's going to be different than what it is now because it's vacant. Anything you put in there could be a problem. For those of you who are upset about it being rental properties next to single family homes are all throughout the city of Deerfield Beach, Broward County, everywhere else. I just sold my single family home in my neighborhood, moved 3 blocks away, and I'm in a rental apartment at the time. 3 blocks away in the same neighborhood. Doesn't change anything. It doesn't bring down our values. It adds a variety. I think a lot of what I hear is certain concerns about we don't want to redo what was there before. And we have some problems that exist now that aren't being addressed that we need to work on. I do believe the safeguards that are in place for this project are going a long ways to try to prevent that. And we have the ability to hold their feet to the fire where in other cases we might not. Let's say this is privately owned and they came in and decided to build something that they have the rights to do. They have property rights. They own those. If they own that property, they can come in and build something within that zoning that you might not like at all compared to this, with no background checks, with none of the safeguards that you're getting right now. I understand that maybe it didn't get lowered as much as you want. They did lower it, putting up the wall. They are trying to work. I hope that we continue to do that. From what I hear, there are some frustrations with how those meetings go, and I think hopefully moving forward we can address some of those issues. But I am in support of moving this forward at this time, but there is a long ways to get us to having this up at the ground. There's a lot more work to do, so I don't need to do that. Commissioner, any other comments?
Motion to approve.
Okay.
Second.
Motion from Commissioner Hudak, second by Commissioner Parnas. We have roll call, please.
Mayor, before you call the vote, sorry to interrupt. Commissioner Hudak, is that a motion to approve with the stipulations proffered by the developer, which I have, the applicant, which I have as the 65-foot maximum height on the apartment building, the privacy walls, and the easements for the adjacent property owners for the fencing encroaching?
Yes, sir.
And the second?
Yes.
Commissioner Parnas, thank you.
Okay. Roll call, please.
Commissioner Ostrowski,
Yes.
Commissioner Hudak,
Yes.
Commissioner Parnas.
Yes.
Vice Mayor Preston,
Can't hear you, Vice Mayor.
okay.
Sorry, you have to unmute yourself, I believe. There you go.
Hey, Mayor, I just want you to know that I tried to unmute myself before and it said the host is not allowing the participants to unmute themselves. So that wasn't me. Just want to let you know. Okay. Okay. Yes.
Thank you.
Mayor Nance.
Yes.
Okay. Item number 3 on tonight's agenda is an ordinance to the City Commission of the City of Deerfield Beach, Florida, amending Chapter 66, Traffic and Vehicles of the City Code of Ordinances at Article 2, Stopping, Standing, Parking, and Article 3, Towing of unauthorized vehicles from private property, provide consistency with state law, providing for conflict, severability, codification, and an effective date. This is second reading.
Thank you. I'm going to pause for just a moment to let anybody who wanted to leave, if they want to get out, I'll let them leave right now. City Manager, do you have any staff comments on this?
I don't have any staff comments at this time, Mayor. Being that this is second reading, I'm happy to address any questions that the Commissioner and public have.
Excellent, thank you. Is there anyone from the public who care to comment on this item? I don't see anybody in the building. Is there anyone online who care to comment on this item? I don't see any hands up online. Any letters that come there?
Yes, I would like to.
I'm sorry? Yes, Patrick, do you want to speak? Online, is there someone who would like to speak in this item? Raise your hand or unmute your mic. Okay, not seeing anybody. I don't know where Patrick, you still there? Do you want to comment on this item?
There's someone by the name of Family. It says he cannot listen.
Okay, will you go ahead and put them on? Unmute them.
Hey, good evening, Senator. My name is Brian Mayo, 1235 Southwest 46 Terrace. Again, speaking against this, Mr. Powers at the last meeting, says, and he's correct, there are 2 lots within Deerfield Beach. He's saying there's 14 businesses within the 5-mile radius, and then this would add an additional 8 by expanding this to 10. But the problem is that by expanding this to, the numbers are actually wrong. One, in the numbering, he was actually off by 1. He skipped number 11. So you're not adding 24 businesses. The total is going to be down to 23. Of the additional ones that are coming in, one of those is a commercial vehicle. So they're not even doing private tows. So you're not really getting 8. You're only going to get 7. One of them is strictly a repossession company. So you're only going to get now 6. So you're not really getting the actual accurate number. If, you guys have been preparing to do this all along, as, Commissioner Drosky has said, then the research and homework would have been done accurately. But you're actually not getting as many businesses as are being claimed by the city. Two of the businesses that are outside of the current 5 are actually coming back to personal residential locations, one of which is in Palm Air. So if you want me to park, and it's located on the golf course, so if you want to park the vehicles in the impound lot right on the 14th green, that's great, but you're not actually getting as many in here. So you're actually only going to get 4. And of those that you're actually trying to bring in here, some of those aren't even going to be in our county. So there's actually no monetary benefit for the county. You're bringing it outside of our own community. There's no monetary benefit for the city. There's no monetary benefit for the county. Yes, I understand you're trying to expand opportunities and give more business opportunities and options to the private residences or the homeowners associations or, commercial properties. But the way it's being portrayed is not actually accurate as far as where these are located, what they're actually done. We've taken the time to do our research, which city staff could have done, but city staff isn't portraying this correctly. Not only that, but they're using a radius of as the crow flies or air miles. And I'm not taking a helicopter to pick up my to pick up my car, which is 10 miles away. I have to drive. So some of these, when you look at the maps, although they're within 10-mile radius by air, they're actually 12 and 13, 14 miles out. So you're not actually gaining as many as you expect. And Mayor Gans, I appreciate the fact that, you voted this down and voted to be lenient towards the residents.
Another minute. I'm going to give you another minute, Mr. Mayor.
Yes, please. I appreciate the fact that you're doing the right thing by the residents, and I applaud you for that. But this is a deterrence. Still having your vehicle towed is a deterrence. Leaving it within the 5 and doing the right thing for the residents is the right thing to do. I implore the commission to do what's right, not over punish the residents of Deerfield Beach. So that you understand this, 90% of the tows out of this one HOA were first-time offenses. There were no warnings. It wasn't like there's a habitual parking problem in that neighborhood. They're just victimizing your residents. And I don't think that you really understand that. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you. We have Jen with your hand raised. Go ahead, Jen. Jen, you're unmuted. Would you like to speak? Okay. Not seeing anybody else. I'm going to close it to the public. I agree with everything that's within this parking revision that we have, or towing revision we have. The one thing is, I do have a problem with going from 5 miles to 10 miles. I know that keeps us with where the state is at, but as we often talk about the state, when they blanket, when they have a policy, what Deerfield Beach, Broward County, the metropolitan area here is very different than what it's like in a Lake City or, Orlando, Ocala area, that you might have to go 10 miles in order to find a towing place. We don't have that problem. And I understand the argument of allowing for competition. I believe competition is very healthy, especially when you're dealing in the towing world, because if you're stuck with a limited amount you have to deal with or unsavory business, or let's just say not customer friendly, you don't want to be stuck with a limited option when it comes to that. But we have 14 with the 5 miles. So that covers us there. But as was pointed out, this is 5 or 10 miles as a crow flies. Now, 5 miles might not seem a lot, or even 10 miles might not seem a lot. Try driving it. Try driving 10 miles to the south or to the north. I actually think if you go to the east, you might end up in the ocean. But if you do go north or south or west, in the traffic that we have, you're going to realize that it is a burden. And while I don't have a lot of sympathy for people who, are chronic, habitual people who break the rules when it comes to having the need to have their car towed, there are people that have human moments. There are people that have mistakes that happen that are already going through the inconvenience and the cost of having to go get their car, to go 10 miles, to go all the way down to maybe Oakland Park or somewhere like that. It's an undue burden on them. And I think it's a small thing to just keep it at the 5 miles as opposed to 10. It's 5 miles, but it makes a world of difference when you're on the road. So I'm asking for this to be approved, but instead of going to 10 miles, I'm asking for it to go to 5 miles. Jen, or somebody's speaking. I see a hand raised now, but I've already closed it to the public. If there's somebody online who's speaking, will you please have their phone silenced? Because we've closed it to the public now. Yes, go right ahead. Mr. Parnas.
I'll make a motion to approve the
5 miles.
Okay, we have a motion, Commissioner Drosky, you want to speak?
I wanted to speak in favor of 10, because it's the 10 miles that's maximum. So we're imposing upon this restriction for the towing and we're required to by the state. So we voted for the 10 at the first meeting to not prevent or squash competition because it's 10 miles from the point of tow. So when someone says, when we say there's 14 options, that's incorrect. You don't have 14 options. It's the options that you have from the point of tow. If you're in the middle of the city, Commissioner Preston's district, for example, you're not going to have those 14 options. You're going to have far fewer. You may have 4 or 5 or somewhere far out west. You may only have 1 or 2 options. So the options are not 14. So by keeping it at 10, we're providing that competition that we asked for. By approving 5, we're actually limiting the competition and narrowing the number of options that are available. So I would suggest that we stick to the 10 that was in the original approval back at first.
Commissioner Hudak?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I was wondering if Mr. Power can pull up that map that shows the location of these towing facilities. Because that is a good point, Commissioner Drosky, with regards to it is from the point of the tow and not necessarily the center of the city. And so I'd kind of like to see, what we're looking at with regards to the 5 and 10 miles, if that is that available?
Commissioner Hudak, I'll have to defer to Ms. Montemayor, who's got control of Zoom here and can pull up the data.
There we go.
There she goes.
So
Eric Power, Director of Underground Services. The map was made in a radius format just to show the available locations. Every item on this map shows a approved and legal business tax received property by municipality or county that the property is in. These properties were not vetted by the city to see if they would be willing to be part of our program or meet with particular parts of the city. These are simply a map showing all locations in a 5 and 10 mile radius. There are properties, commercial vehicles do get towed by commercial properties or properties that park in right of way. The city has towed commercial vehicles parking right of way overnight multiple times. So that's all this map shows. It does not show particular locations related to an individual property owner or an association. It's simply a map showing all the available locations. And as Commissioner Drosky just mentioned, properties to the south may not be available to properties to the north and vice versa.
So this map is set up based on central location of the city.
Yeah, it's just simply that it's actually the circles are from the border of the city, not the center, but the actual border of the city. So it's the central part of the city, which is 3 to 5 miles, and which we're going into the middle of the city.
Okay.
Now even further away.
Okay. Gotcha. Thank you. Okay. Jen, looks like you had technical difficulties. I'm going to open up to the public again. If you'd like to speak, go right ahead. You'll need to be unmuted. There you go. Name and address for the record, please. Jen, are you there? Okay, I'm gonna close it.
Are you?
Yep. Pardon? It was already open and it was closed and I just reopened it again. Do you want to speak now?
I wouldn't mind, but
If you're gonna speak now. I'm not gonna reopen it a third time.
Katie Freitag, 418 South 2nd Street. For me, I understand the towing aspect of certain things. I got a parking ticket for paying for failing to put my money in the right slot when I went down to park in Fort Lauderdale. I went down to fight the ticket at court and ended up parking in a parking lot that I thought was open. Turns out it wasn't. My car got towed. Lo and behold, I realized that I'm in my husband's car and not my car. So not only do I have to walk at least 5 miles to get to the car, only to find out that I'm not allowed to pick it up because it's in my husband's name. I have to wait for him to drive down from Deerfield to Fort Lauderdale. And this happened to be on our anniversary. That's not a good one. I think 5 miles, when you're obviously going to be on foot at this point in time. If your car got towed, you're on foot. You're not necessarily, might not have the money for an Uber, it might be late at night, don't necessarily, you're walking. So 5 miles is plenty, 10 miles, I think it's a little much. And looking at the map, you have to go all the way down to Oakland Park from Deerfield to pick up your car. That's a little much. So I just think we need to maybe rethink things, bring in the radius just a little bit and save us in our heels. Thanks.
Thank you. I'm gonna go ahead and close it to the public. I don't see Jen back, so I'm gonna close it to the public. Yes. Okay.
Since the argument has been made that the application of the 10-mile radius has been in place to by the city law or violations of the existing zoning ordinance by the private resident private entities. This unfortunately is a crime. So that properly says things that the consider some outline for the city board and residents here. Sorry.
Okay.
But she was closing it out by saying we're taking it at 5 lines to provide sufficient to as compared to the 2 companies that are just here now.
Okay, thank you. I'm gonna close it to the public. Vice Mayor, you ever hear that?
Yes, I do. Everything that the city clerk just read, I could not hear. Not a single word.
Okay.
So I don't know if the person was pro.
The person wants to keep it within the 5 miles as opposed to 10.
Okay. And so next thing is that there's a motion on the floor. Is that motion amending the 10 miles to 5, or what is it that we're about to vote on here?
Commissioner Parnas, if he doesn't have a second yet, is looking to amend it to go to 5 instead of 10.
Okay. He doesn't have a second?
He does not have a second.
I'll second it.
Okay. So we have a motion from Commissioner Parnas to go from 10 miles to 5 and approve everything else. And we have a second by the Vice Mayor. We have roll call, please.
Commissioner Drosky.
No.
Commissioner Hudak.
Yes.
Commissioner Preston. I'm sorry, Commissioner Parnas.
Yes.
Vice Mayor Preston.
Yes.
And Mayor Dan.
Yes. I do want to say this before we move off from this staff, that there's been some things that, been said. It said staff hasn't done a good job at this, or has done things underhandedly. I have seen nothing that would indicate that. I think it's completely untrue. And I don't believe that this is something that is the case. I think it's a matter of trying to keep the state. I completely understand that. I know it's been working on for a while, but I'm glad we were able to keep it in 5 miles. So thank you.
Okay, we are now at the public comment portion of tonight's meeting. Persons addressing the commission shall state his or her name and address and may speak for 3 minutes unless extended for 1 additional minute by the mayor. This is the time of the meeting for public comment on items that are not on the agenda. If you have public comment on items that are on the agenda, the time to do that is when the public comment period is open after the item is read into the record. And as a reminder, no comment shall be made related to the personal life or personal qualities of any person, and no language which would offend persons of ordinary sensibilities shall be permitted.
Is there anyone from the public who care to speak? Let's write that.
Right top 418 South 2nd Street. Just a couple of reminders. One, tomorrow is the first day of school. Drive slow. You will get tickets in school zones. I'm sure Rodney will take that money and use it in his retirement. So please drive slow in school zones. Second, there is still a fabulous sale going on at the Butler House and Cultural Center, an estate sale. If anybody's interested in any fabulous items, please stop in Saturday and Sunday this weekend. Check your Facebook page for Historical Society. And August 21st is National Senior Day. Please celebrate your seniors.
Thank you very much. Anyone else from the public care to speak? Be kicked in.
I didn't hear it talk much. Okay, good evening. Amy K. Canner, 111 Southeast Fifth Avenue, Deerfield, Otis Tanner Way. First of all, I want to say that I am honored and thrilled to be on the Historic Preservation Board. I don't know if I'm saying that correctly, but I'm really honored. And I got here early in life. Good for me to see you. You weren't here. We've been, the committee has been in place more than a year, and we're not meeting. I realized we weren't meeting, before, but now we can meet. And I was going down Hillsborough, in an area I've been living for nearly 74 years. It sounds like a really big number, but I mean, relatively speaking, it's not. But me, it is. And I noticed new signs in front of 560 East Hillsborough Boulevard, which is known as the Alvin Jones House. And when that was built in 1947, there was they moved out of a little house at the corner, and they moved into a big house. Well, my family moved from a repurposed building from the airport in Boca, was repurposed down here to where the lock shop is. It's like a little duplex, very nice with officer housing. And it was a little place that we came after my father came home after the war. And in September of 1947, we moved into the little house. So I've lived right in that neighborhood for a long time. And yesterday, day before yesterday, I was driving down the road and I saw a new sign where my little house used to be. And it said 1+ acres, prime development, got a picture, prime development area. Well, to get that much prime development area, they're gonna have to tear down that house. Historic preservation. We have to preserve our history. We can tear it down and it won't lose the history, but we'll lose the visual of the history. They didn't tear down Mount Vernon or places like that. They enhanced it. And if we tear down our history to accommodate new buildings, to raise the tax base or whatever, it doesn't make sense. It's not right. I realize that everything is, I could use another minute or 10. Anyway, I live less than 0.1 miles from that place now. And it could go into a lot of, I can't believe it's not a lawyer's building or something. It's a beautiful home. Has been sitting vacant for 3 years. That's not good. But I want to call upon the committee to meet. Eric, we need to meet.
Excuse me, he didn't
Yes, we
address
need
us.
to, I'm not supposed to talk to anybody else. But we need to meet because we need to preserve our history. And there's stuff over on the beach that was built pre-47. My dad built those buildings on the south side of the big curve in before 1947. And I got pictures, and I got pictures down here. These buildings across the street, they were the building department a few years ago. I inquired about it.
Thank you very much.
Okay. I'd be happy to share that with anybody.
That would be great. You have our number for sure. Yes. Yes. Go ahead, Representative. Clark Reed.
Muted.
No, we can hear you. Or we could.
Can you hear me?
Yes, ma'am.
All right, thank you. Gwen Clark Reed, 1430 Southwest 6th Way, Deerfield Beach. Mayor, I just wanted to know, have the commissioners received the budget? It's after August 15th. Did you receive a new budget proposal since we met on August the 10th? And if so, I would like to acquire a copy of what you received.
We received a big giant book. Yes, absolutely.
All right. Also, Mayor, at the last city commission meeting, there was an analogy made by you in referencing a feminine product company with an analogy that you made. I found that a little offensive, and I would just like us to be more considerate of what we are talking about to the public. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Anyone else? I don't see anyone else. I'm going to close it to the public.
Okay, we are now on consent board appointments with the withdrawal of item number 5. I believe there's just item number 4 left. I'm going to go ahead and read that title into the record. Item number 4, a resolution of the City Commission of the City of Deerfield Beach, Florida, confirming the election results for a member to the Board of Trustees of the Municipal Police Officers Pension Retirement Trust Fund, providing for an effective date.
Is anyone from the public here to comment on this item? Not seeing any. I'm going to close it to the public. Commission.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Thank you. Motion second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay.
You're now on consent agreements and expenditure requests. This is for items 6 through 9.
Okay, is there anyone from the public who care to comment on either item 6, 7, 8, or 9? Not seeing anyone. I'm going to close it to the public then. Commission, we can treat them individual polls. Okay, looking for a motion then to do all 4.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Motion from Commissioner Parnas, second by Commissioner Hudak. Roll call, please.
Commissioner Drosky?
Yes.
Commissioner Hudak?
Yes.
Commissioner Parnas?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Hudson?
Yes.
Mayor Taylor?
Yes.
Item number 10 is a resolution of the City Commission of the City of Deerfield Beach, Florida, adopting the revised comprehensive beach management plan, authorizing the filing of the local government funding request for fiscal year 2022-2023 with the Florida Department of Environmental Protection for projects to mitigate beach erosion in Deerfield Beach, supporting projects for which funding is requested, confirming the city's ability to serve as a local sponsor and the ability to fund the appropriate local share of projects, identifying the city's funding source and providing for an effective date.
Is there any staff comments before we move forward?
Yes, Mayor. Actually, I have a staff presentation for this. I have Mr. Vardis here to briefly go over that presentation.
Great.
Good evening, Mayor, Vice Mayor, Commissioners. Thank you for giving me the opportunity to present tonight. My name is Patrick Vardis. I'm the city's coastal and waterway coordinator, Department of Sustainable Management. Tonight, I'm going to be presenting the comprehensive beach management plan and its recommendations very briefly. Next slide, please. First, I'm going to go over a little background of how we got to where we are now, then the purpose and needs for the plan, brief project history, then our current coastal setting, how we engage the public, the economic benefits of our beach, the funding mechanisms, how we're going to pay for things. And I'm going to summarize our recommendations, and then myself and our consultants are happy to answer any questions.
Thank you.
Next, please. Comprehensive Beach Management Plan was initially a recommendation from the Marine Advisory Board, which I am the staff liaison. We then conducted 2 coastal workshops. We introduced a new coastal and waterway division, its mission statement, and staff was directed to present an outline for the plan. We then conducted another workshop where we presented the outline to the commission, and staff was directed to proceed with the plan. This plan also aligns with the coastal management element of the overall city comprehensive plan, which is currently being updated and is updated every 7 years. The plan was also revised to include the recent settlement of the town of Hillsborough Beach. Next, please. Purpose and need for a plan. Protect, conserve, and enhance the city's coastal assets. That's the mission statement for the Coastal and Waterway Division. We had to evaluate needs so we can properly manage our beach, quantify a baseline for best management practices, identify funding opportunities, needs, and priorities, engage the public to see what the public wants to see from our beach, and very importantly, participate in the state's local government funding request program. Next, please. Brief history of our project history, excuse me. Many of you may not know, but our coastal program actually dates back almost 70 years. In the 50s, we installed a seawall north of the pier and timber groins to the south. In the 60s, 70s, and 80s, we replaced those timber groins with concrete pilings and boulder mounts. In 1998, we started our first of 3 joint projects with the town of Hillsborough Beach, where we placed approximately 50,000 yards of sand on our beach. 2008 and 2009, we did dune restoration projects to help with storm impacts. 2011 and 2015, also joint projects with the town. And these projects actually help us make our beach an engineered beach, which allows us to execute. Next. So what is our coastal setting? For the purposes of the plan, we separate our beach into 3 sectors. Our north sector is a stable and very wide beach, which is supplemented by the City of Boca Raton's beach nourishment program, as well as their inlet sand bypassing. Our central sector is a transition between the north and the south. It includes most of our public infrastructure, our pier facilities, lifeguard towers, bathrooms, grassy berm, cheeky huts, main beach parking lot, ocean rescue, and our fire station. And this sector is actually currently in the process of being designated as critically eroded by the DEP. Our south sector, however, is already critically eroded by the DEP. This is where we have our exposed rock groins, vegetated dunes, our boardwalk, our wedding deck, our lifeguard towers, and our exercise area. We also have threats and challenges to our beach. Climate change and sea level rise, major storm events, permitting and rising project costs, erosion especially. And like I said, our north area is stable and accretional. Our central and south lose approximately 13,000 and 14,000 yards of sand a year, respectively. Now, as I mentioned, our central and south is critically eroded by the DEP. Taking no action will increase vulnerability and severity of impacts. So how do we engage the public? First, we conducted 2 beachgoer surveys. We did it in the fall and the spring and the fall of 2019. Where myself and my staff went out and interviewed the public. Our consultants did the fall events. We also had an online survey that was online for 60 days and received 288 responses. Of that, 83% of the responses were residents who regularly use the beach. Top 3 responses of what they love include public access, convenience, and the grassy berm. Our top 3 challenges of the survey were parking availability, too many people, and lack of transportation options. Protect, conserve, and enhance. Our respondents value current protection measures, including dunes and beach nourishment. To conserve our beach, respondents would like to see more sea turtle conservation and protection, reef-related research, beach cleanups, and native dunes continue. To enhance for resiliency considerations include sea level rise, shoreline management, recreational economic benefits should be expanded and assessed. So what are the economic benefits of our beach? The beach is our city's #1 asset. We have approximately 2.7 million annual visitors a year. According to our beachgoer survey, the average beach visitor spends $14.36 a day. This equates to 38.9 million in economic activity annually. There are 555 oceanside hotel rooms generating $19.3 million annually. Our total annual recreational value is approximately $58.2 million. The city contributes approximately $1.16 million to the county tourist development tax. Since 2011, we have contributed approximately $20 million. Our annual parking meter revenue, fiscal year 20, was approximately $2 million, and we are projected this year at almost $3 million. Slide. Funding mechanisms, how are we going to pay for it? Very important that we establish a defined coastal funding source and leverage those funds to pursue other federal, state, and local dollars. Apply annually to FDP local government funding requests to meet our program needs. Request reimbursement for projects from Broward County. Seek post-storm recovery from FEMA. Pursue fair share of contributed TDT dollars. And evaluate other sources to fund remaining program costs such as parking revenue, ad valorem tax revenue, and establishment of special assessment of tax. We also need to pursue regional coordination for joint nourishment projects to achieve economies of scale. This can be accomplished by partnering with the town of Hillsborough Beach, as well as the city of Boca Raton. We need to identify and pursue public and private partnerships with P3 to aid in our artificial reef program, beach and pier cleanups, dune restoration projects, and expansion of our underwater camera program. JM Family, as you know, is a great partner to the city. They've also conducted many beach cleanups, dune restoration projects, and they're also the title sponsor to our litter-free Deerfield Beach program. We are currently in conversations with the Guy Harvey Ocean Foundation to expand our CRA facilities. And the Loggerhead Marine Life Center and their Responsible Care Initiative have partnered with the city for the last 5 years, and they're also our sponsor for the International Coastal Cleanup next month. Slide, please. And in summary, protect and conserve. We need to collect data via biannual surveys to monitor and track beach conditions. Restore the native dune vegetation with dune systems to minimize falling sand loss. Continue support of county efforts to monitor sea turtle nesting activity. Implement the new revised sea turtle lighting ordinance, which is going in front of the P&Z board next month. Obtain long-term state, county, and federal beach nourishment permit. And evaluate and pursue measures that will extend the life of each beach nourishment project. Next slide. What can we do to enhance our coastal area in the near term? We are conducting our vessel exclusion zone buoy maintenance in this fiscal year. We should have a contract signed by September 1st. We're going to conduct a dry beach dune restoration project utilizing the Sand of Opportunity at Central City Campus next fiscal year. We are currently pursuing permits for regional beach nourishment project at the town of Hillsborough Beach, which is targeted for fiscal year 23. We had anticipated doing a project with the town next year. However, conversations with the Army Corps of Engineers stated that we had to restart the permitting process, and that process will take up to a year. We need to continue to explore and plan upon P3 partnerships, evaluate our artificial reef program and other recreational beneficial opportunities, and finally, facilitate beach and pier cleanup events. With that, I'm happy, and our consultants are happy to answer any questions.
Thank you. I do have one. A few years ago, we had a workshop talking about putting vegetation on the beach to and erosion. We're going to do a sample study to figure out how was that gone, what are the results?
We did a pilot, location that was decided was in front of the wedding deck. And we had Hurricane Dorian and it wiped them all out.
Really?
Okay. Well, the proximity to the ocean at the wedding deck is much different situation than other areas.
Okay. Should probably. Okay. Commissioner Pardas, did you have something you want to say?
Yes. I grew up in Brighton Beach, New York.
You're from New York?
Yeah, I'm from New York. Proud of it too. I lived on the beach during World War II and a little beyond. We had about every 5 city streets on the beach, groins you call them, we call them boulders. It went out 100 yards, like so, every 100 yards. In the years that I lived there, I never saw the beach renourished. It broke up the waves coming in to a point where even high tide, it didn't come in too far and wash the sand out. Secondly, they built a boardwalk, which I don't recommend we do, where in order to get to the beach, you had to go from the street up a flight of stairs, cross the boardwalk, and then go down to the beach. Underneath was a wall. If the wind blew the sand, since it was up a story, the sand went underneath and could be saved and then redistributed on the beach. We have a problem with erosion here. And I'm wondering if any studies have been done. What would it take if we put groins out every 500 yards, let's say, 100 yards out into the ocean? It was great for us kids because low tide, we'd walk out to the end of the rocks, dive off and swim back to shore. And high tide, you didn't have to go that far, maybe halfway out and then dive off back. It limited, and a windy day, the height of the waves, they broke up. And we noticed that if you were 20 feet from the water's edge and the tide came in, it didn't come past the 20 feet. So most of the beach stayed as beach. Have any studies been done here in Florida to perhaps augment such a program so that we have less problems with beach nourishment?
Well, thank you for that question. Groins are more of an older school methodology to prevent erosion. And for the permitting agencies these days, since we have offshore resources such as natural reefs and natural hard bottom, would limit how far out we could go. But we could certainly evaluate the cost and the effectiveness of extending our current groin system, which is the entire length of our city. So
yes.
Yeah. So even if they're buried on the north end, they're still there. They're still there. Yeah. But we could absolutely evaluate that.
Well, they came up to where you could really walk out pretty far, even in high tide, on dry boulders, one to the other.
Commissioner, what he's saying is we can't go out that far.
No, but if you went out half that distance, it would still be a savings. I imagine back in 1940s, those boulders were a little cheaper than they are today. And moving them was cheaper. But it seemed to, I don't ever remember in living there for 5 years, seeing the beach having to be renourished. And I thought the groins were a contributing factor to that. It wouldn't be nice if we could save even $500,000 or so out of the annual budget to constantly refurbish the beach. I'm just asking that we look into it. I'm not suggesting we immediately do it because times have changed and things have changed. But I think it's worthwhile looking into.
Absolutely. I'm sure the town of Hillsborough would be thrilled to hear that. Commissioner Grossi?
Thank you, Mayor. part, as you mentioned during your presentation, that we pay 1.16 million county tourist development tax. And it's more of a comment than anything else, but the return on that we get is pretty close to zero. Other than the 75,000 that we were able to get for the artificial reef that we had to give back, I'm not aware of any other penny that we've gotten back. And part of that is on us as the electeds because you don't get what you don't ask for. It's a very political organization down there, so we the electeds have to do a better job. But if there's any recommendations that you have as well as projects or way that we can get money on that return, because otherwise we're just a feeder city for the rest of the county and not getting any return on those dollars. That needs to change.
Yeah, as we move forward with the town of Hillsborough Beach and permitting and construction of our conducting a beach nourishment, we will absolutely be requesting partial reimbursement from the county, utilizing from those funds. Typically, it's about 12% of the project costs.
Anyone else? Okay, we're looking for a motion here. Oh, I'm sorry. Anyone from the public have comments?
Katie Barton, 42 in Southeast 2nd Street. Sorry I didn't get a chance to review all the information ahead of time, so my notes are a little scattered. First of all, putting the groins too far out into the water would completely wreck our surf, period. When we have people that are parasailing and doing the surfing out there, to have groins every certain spot, if they hit those groins, they're tumbling, they're not good off. It will completely wreck our surf. Secondly, I agree with Commissioner Drosky, 20 million to the county since 2011. And what are we getting back in return? Where are our assets that we can make our beach better by getting some of that money back from the county? Please, no more special assessments or taxes in that regard. Issues with the three aspects that people always complain about. Parking, always going to be an issue with parking. But here's an idea. Let's make better bike lanes. We're doing all of this work in Pioneer Grove to make the streets safer and make the roadway safer. Let's have better bike lanes that actually get us to the beach safely so we can ride our bikes in the lane and not feel like we're going to get hit by every single car that comes screaming past us honking. The other aspect of that, how about some shuttle services?
Can we stick to the top of the beach itself as opposed to outside that?
Well, this is the part of the three things that people complained about, and one of them was transportation to the beach. And so I'm trying to give some aspects of it. So things that could alleviate people having problems getting to the beach and trying to find parking, just to give them additional ways to get there. Shuttles from some city parks or from some even city.
In the 1940s and 50s, our area along the beach was one of the worst on the East Coast for erosion. In the 1960s, my father and Ed Dietrich sat where you're sitting, and my dad went to University of Florida in Gainesville and met with Dr. Peter Braun, who was from the Netherlands, and they lived with erosion, and he developed what's called the rubble mound system of wood, and I don't think you can see them now. I haven't. And then at the end, they put the rubble mounds. The principle was as Commissioner Parnas said, the waves would come and they would suck up the sand, and then they would fall on the groins and the rubble mounds and drop the sand. So that was how we kept some of our sand, and we got federal funding from that at that point. People said awful things about Otis Tanner and Ed Dietrich about putting those blocks on the beach. And every time I see Blue Wave Beach and our beach, they took a lot of grief from the public for putting those awful rocks on the beach, which came from, by the way, Carl Springs, when they were digging all the waterways out there, the lakes, bottle pits. I met a fellow whose dad hauled them from Cold Spring to Deerfield at the historic public house. And those, they have prevented our erosion any worse than it is. It was always bad on the north side, and look at those pictures they had.
MEK, do you have something specific to the plan that we have right now?
Just, yes, that, I think, continue to develop on that, with that principle in mind. I think we can do a lot for saving our beach, which Hillsborough had the same option we did those years ago, but they didn't do it because they didn't want the rocks. In the dune restoration, just remember that Deerfield Beach is one of the only places left on this coast, especially in Broward County, where you can still sit in your car and see the sea. Some of us have to sit in our car instead of walking down the walkway, but let's remember that when we're refurbishing the dunes, keep it low so you can still see from your car. And I commend the city for trying to do this, and our beach is important. I will admit that. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else from the public? Close it to the public. Are we looking for a motion on this?
Motion on this?
Yes, Mr. Mayor and Commission.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Do a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
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 Those opposed? Okay. Thank you.
Item number 11 is a resolution of the City Commission of the City of Deerfield Beach, Florida, accepting the quitclaim deeds from Habitat for Humanity of Broward, Inc. for the lots located at 166 Southeast 2nd Court and 163 Southeast 2nd Court, approving quitclaim deeds to Habitat for Humanity of Broward, Inc. for the lots located at 2 Northeast 4th Court, 40 Northeast 40th Court, 436 North Deerfield Ave, and 20 North 4th Court, providing for conflicts and an effective date.
Staff.
Good evening, Mayor, Commissioners. This item is being requested because the two lots that we'll be getting back from the Habitat for Humanity of Broward, Inc. Has been deemed really undevelopable by them for their purposes. And so we'll be taking those two properties back, giving them the other 4 properties that are indicated in the resolution in the back of documentation. The 4, although it may appear that we're getting back 2 and we're giving them 4, the 4 lots are very small in size on their own. And so they will be assembled into 2 lots for the purposes of developing affordable housing.
Excellent. Thank you. Is there anyone from the public here to comment on this item? Go ahead and close it to the public. Commission.
Motion to approve.
I did want to make a comment real quick.
Go ahead, Commissioner Hudak.
Thank you very much. 2 years ago, when we were looking at the Tallman Pines area, one of the first items we tried to do was see if we can get Habitat for Humanity out there in order to build homes, single-family homes. Unfortunately, again, it's not private property, so we did not have that ability. I am a big proponent of Habitat for Humanity. I am very disappointed that the 2 properties in District 1 were not able to be developed, but I'm very happy that we have an opportunity to at least, have Habitat for Humanity here in Deerfield Beach. I've been at the property building homes in Pompano with my former company on a number of occasions. And to see how that community is developing and building is something that I had wished we could do here in Deerfield, specifically at Tallman Pines. So I'm glad to see, at least on a smaller scale, we're able to do something. So I'll be in full support of this. Thank you.
Thank you. We have a motion from Vice Mayor. We have a second, Commissioner Barnes. Do a roll call, please.
Commissioner Johnson,
Yes.
Commissioner Duda,
Yes.
Commissioner Parnas.
Yes.
Vice Mayor Preston,
Yes.
Mayor Dan.
Yes.
Comments by administration and legal?
Got number 12.
Yeah, we're going to comments by administration legal first before we get to 12.
And I have no comments this evening, Mayor.
Okay.
I also have a legal no comments tonight. I'm going to move on to city commission business. Item number 12, a resolution of the city commission of the city of Deerfield Beach, Florida, approving free sightseeing admission to the International Fishing Pier for active first responders, authorizing amendment to the appropriate fee schedule to the extent required, providing for conflicts and an effective date.
Vice Mayor Preston, I know you're the sponsor of this.
Yes. And I'll just urge my colleagues to support this. Our first responders they always do a lot. They always do a lot. And if we were to offer more than this, it would certainly be appropriate. But in this pandemic, we've gotten to see another side of all of our first responders, the commitment that they make and actually putting themselves in harm's way, especially with this this pandemic that is in front of us. You'd be surprised to know how many firefighters and police officers are sent home on a daily basis because they tested positive. They were exposed, they go in and test positive. And these are things that we don't know. Firefighters and nurses and police officers that hurt themselves. I know recently a firefighter that was hurt on the job was terribly injured, sent home to heal a little bit. They do so much. And to have them, you know, on a bad day, just walk on the pier and just, you know, a compliment to them. I think this is a good thing. And I hope you all think the same thing as well.
Thank you. Commissioner Hudak, do you want to say something?
Yeah, I just wanted to know how are we defining first responders?
And
I believe it's in the backup on that.
It is.
City Manager, do you want to answer that or you have a comment?
Yes, thank you, Mayor. I do want to just also make the commission aware that we looked at what potential costs are, find them to be negligible with veterans and active first responders classified as fire, EMS, or police. It looks to be around $1,000 that we'd be losing out on, and this is for pier sightseeing admission.
First responders consist of active law enforcement, fire, and emergency medical service personnel.
Thank you.
Commission.
Motion to approve.
I'm sorry, thank you very much. We'll hold that motion for a moment. Move from the public here to comment.
Kate Barton, 418 Southeast Second Street. I think this is a great addition. As a side note, and I know this is a piggyback, I would love to see us do something like this for the teachers, especially maybe during teachers' week.
Thank you. Anyone else from the public? Okay, we're going to close it to the public. We have a motion for a second.
Second.
All right. We have roll call, please.
Commissioner Johnson,
Yes.
Commissioner Hudak,
Yes.
Commissioner Parnas.
Yes.
Vice Mayor Preston,
Yes.
Mayor Dan.
Yes.
We're now at comments by mayor and city commission.
Okay, starting with District 1.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. As Katie Frogtag mentioned earlier, tomorrow is the first day of school. So asking everybody to, be careful when you drive. It's going to be a challenging next couple of months for those students. Unfortunately, we have politicized even going back to school. So, just take care. This past week, I spent 4 days in Orlando at the Florida League of Cities event. It was a tremendously educational event. We talked about a variety of different topics that do have the ability to affect our city, some in a positive way, some in a negative way. One of the bills that was passed is this home-based business bill that can be very, very challenging for the city. So I'm going to look at different ways that we can protect ourselves as much as we can. I've asked the city attorney to see what, if anything, we can do in order to protect our city, just to make sure that our neighborhoods are preserved as much as we can. It was a great opportunity to meet with state representatives as well as mayors from other cities and commissioners, former commissioners. It was a very productive event. And if anybody wants any details on it, I'll be more than happy to speak with you one-on-one. That's all I have today.
Thank you, Commissioner Nadek. District 2.
Thank you, Mayor. I just want to say to all of my colleagues that the backpack giveaway that was at Oviedo McKeithen last Saturday was a tremendous success. As you all know, that's going to be renamed for Deputy Harold Morrison. His daughter was one of the people that was giving away the backpack. And I'm going to tell you, she was so committed and working. She did such a good job. And she wanted me to say to all of the commission, she appreciates all of your generosity and the sympathy shown and respect for her father that was shown by this commission. Thank you very much. I would like to thank all of my colleagues for passing the peer admission, as we just did. Thank you so very much for that consideration. There will be a District 2 meeting on Tuesday, August 31st, 7 p.m. At the Hillsborough Community Center. Please come out to that. There's going to be another backpack giveaway this coming Saturday at 10 o'clock over at the Oviedo McKeithen. That's by Senator Gary Farmer is sponsoring that. And so there's a chance that if anyone knows that, some kids that need backpacks to come on out and be a part of that. I would ask my colleagues to please consider returning the appeals board back, making it active. We had an appeals board that was in place and it was working. And so I really would like to re-implement that. The case for the appeals board is, number one, it was working. And two, it would be a cost savings to the city. The safety of our kids was not compromised. And it gives a chance for the community, as it was at that time, to be involved. Now, the committee was comprised of the city manager or a city manager designee, a police officer, and a residential volunteer. Now, back when this was implemented, to put it in place, that police officer was Flora Field Park. And the neighborhood residential person was Bernard Adams, along with the city manager. It was working. Nothing happened egregious. And I know, Mayor, that you're very concerned, as all of the commissioners are, about our kids, the background check and those sort of things. And I share that. And I would ask my colleagues to re-implement this. If it does not work, I will be the first to say to you that there's holes in it and that we should get rid of it. But it was in place and it was carefully thought out. You know, and it was working. And you had the people that was represented, as I just named, were people of integrity. These are good people of the community that watches our children, and they are in charge from the police position of. They don't come any better than a Flora Philpott, watching the community, doing the things that needed to be done, thought of so highly by her colleagues. And then there was Bernard Adams. They just don't come any better than Mr. Adams. And he ran that program over there. He lifted it, and he is one of the ones, as so many others, support the appeals board. He called me and he said, would be a good thing for the community, which I agree. And it should be re-implemented. So I would hope that my colleagues would really consider this and put it back in place. It would be greatly appreciated by District 2. And hopefully that this can be a topic for consideration. That's it, Mayor. Thank you.
Thank you. District 3.
District 3, first I want to tell everybody that I support Broward County teachers and their effort to keep our kids safe. We used to get reports every day. The last report I got several months ago showed that Deerfield Beach had 7,000 cases of COVID. Since then, the state has decided we're not intelligent enough to interpret the information, so they don't send us any reports anymore. We have no idea. Broward County, Deerfield Beach, getting that information is just about impossible. Wearing masks in school, I'll give you an analogy. If parents were to decide everything for the safety of our children in schools, they could say, I don't want you to wear a mask, but I want you to carry a gun. Now, why don't we allow guns on schools? Because somebody could hurt other children. Somebody without a mask who may be infected with COVID can infect an entire class without masks. So if you can do one, why can't you do the other? Why? Because safety comes in protecting the children and the teachers and the staff. Broward County lost 4 people last week to COVID, 3 teachers and a teacher's aide. They died. How many more have to die before Tallahassee leaves us alone to protect our children the way we feel it should be done? That's my comment for this meeting.
Thank you, District 4.
I don't have any comments tonight, except to my colleague from District 2. I don't have any problems debating whether to reinstate the appeal board. I just think it needs to be an agenda item with backup, whatever you want me to consider, putting it in commissioner comments at the end of the meeting where the public is aware or aware of what we're going to say or debate. I don't think is the place for it. So if you add it to an agenda, I'd be happy to debate it then and just add the backup that you want me to look at.
I can't hear you. What was your comment, Commissioner?
My comment was to add the appeals board to an agenda item so that we can debate it with public notice rather than commissioner comments at the end of the meeting.
Well, I brought it up, Commissioner, just to put it out there to let you know, as I said, that's just something that I would ask you guys to look at considering. It would be attached to as a matter of procedure. If I would go there with that, and that's what I wanted to do. But I also just wanted to just alert you. That's all it was. It was not any type of a trick or anything. It was just to let you, to inform you. That's all it was.
No, I wasn't insinuating it's a trick. I'm just saying I want the backup in order to properly debate it. That's all.
Absolutely, not a problem.
And that's all I have.
Thank you very much. I have no comments for tonight.
Motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn. All in favor, say aye.
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 Second.
Meeting adjourned.
I don't know if anybody's heard. But